Welcome to Simply Caroline, a podcast dedicated to women empowerment where we will discuss a bunch of different subjects such as life, parenting, love, business, money, relationships, healing, recovery, addiction, entrepreneurship, and so much more. A podcast I'll do my best to keep simple, fun, and relatable and bring you tools to help you better your life. So thank you for being here. And here's your host, myself, Caroline Blanchard. Hello, everyone. Happy to see you here today. And again, I have another amazing guest. And yes, I'll come up with a different word than amazing, but what can I say? They're all amazing. A person I absolutely love. I love her voice. I love her mentality. I love what she's doing. So welcome, Elizabeth Larson.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I'm just excited to be here.
Yes. So how's everything going for you?
Good. Really excited about 2022. I just really feel a lot of energy and excitement about this year, and I am beyond excited. Like I don't even have a better word. Pumped isn't even the right word, but for what's going on in 2022. Let me tell you, this is the year we rise.
Yes. So, Elizabeth, you're a transformation coach. You have a business of your own. You're a #1 bestseller author. You are a lot of different things. But what I love the most about you is that you are so human and grounded. So let's talk a bit about your, being a transformation coach, because a lot of people call themselves life coach, and you do not call yourself like that. Explain a little bit why. What's the difference with your coaching?
Well, and for me, it's not just life. I narrow in on helping people get from one place where they're really super stuck to the place that they really want to be. And sometimes they don't even know where that is. And so it's a lot of deep inner work. It's not just a lot of goal setting. Like a lot of coaches, it's like, well, we do goals and we set this and you're going to have accountability and stuff like that. And that's great. But I have learned through my own path that unless the internal work is done, the transformation doesn't happen. And so for me, it's not just about goals. Goals are great. I have goals. I teach people how to make simple steps that make dramatic changes. But for me, having that internal work completed, I feel is the thing that really begins the transformation, because when the inner work's done, hitting the goals are so much easier because you're not just forcing it on the outside, it's coming from within. And there's a big difference in that. So that is why I call it transformational coaching, because it's about helping the person transform into who they really are, not the things, the baggage, not the traumas and everything else that have been placed on them.
So I can hear some of my friends that are a bit cynical about this transformation, and always like, when we start a new year, we say like, oh, the new you and everything. And they're like, why do we always have to transform or being something else? But I think it's just an old stigma about the word transformation, because if you're not really 100% where you want to be, there is something that you need to change. And yes, some people are where they want to be, and that's not for them, and fine. But I so agree with you that if you don't do the inner work, you can do as much coaching as you want. You will achieve certain goals, and I'm the perfect example of that. I've done so much work and this and that over the years, but it took me a long time before I actually decided to go dig into, okay, well, let's go fix the real issue, because at the base, it's your foundation. So how do you find that how do you bring people to go there?
Well, first of all, there has to be a revelation within yourself that you want something greater than what you have currently right now. And for a lot of people, if they haven't hit that yet, they really don't begin that work. But for the people that are working with me, that's exactly what's happened. They have realized that they have lived a life that either that they were told to live by their parents, or they had beliefs about themselves that were kind of defaulted, because of abuse or, trauma, family situations coming out. I mean, most people I grew up in the 70s and 80s. That's when, there weren't a ton of divorces in the 70s, but the ones that were traumatic for the kids going through it because there was such a stigma. And then you had more and more broken families as we were going along. So people had internalized things, beliefs that were told to them by society, by parents, teachers, friends, lots of different things that of these things that aren't actually true about who they are. And so they just develop a life based on those beliefs. The thing of it is, when you start doing that internal work, those beliefs change. And when those beliefs change, suddenly your outside has to change also, because your outside has to line up with what you believe on the inside. There's not going to be a difference there. And so the thing, and this is based on, years of me going through things and trying to figure it out and trying to figure out why this doesn't work and why am I not getting ahead, and coming from a place where I couldn't even believe for a better life. When I first started this journey, I couldn't believe for anything better than what I had. Nothing. I thought, this is my lot in life, and this is the way it is, and there's something wrong with me, and so this is just what I get, and I don't get to be one of those people.
Mhm.
And that is a very sad and hard place to be. And I've had friends that committed suicide a long time ago, because they thought that this is just it. And for me, realizing and remembering where I came from and seeing my own journey of training, and we're all on a journey. I mean, the truth is, we all are. Every single person's on a journey. This isn't just we do one thing and we're set. We're always growing and we're always, evolving. But to go back, I think it was Hank Norman who said, the very best thing that you can do is when you start doing whatever it is that you want to do in life, go back and talk to the person that you used to be, because that's the person who needs to hear your message. And so there's people that probably are like, transformation, and that's perfectly okay. That's there. That's not the person that I'm talking to, but I am talking to the person who thinks that, wow, this is just my lot in life. Wow, I can't have those things. Wow, I don't even know how to get there. Wow, I wish I could have that, but I don't know. Maybe I feel like I'm not worthy. Maybe I feel like I'm not loved. Maybe I feel like I don't deserve better. Maybe I'm in abusive relationships and I don't know how to get out. Maybe I'm at a job that I hate and I think this is all I can do because I'm scared to step out because I don't have anybody that believes in me to help me get there. These are the things that these are the people that I'm working with. These are the people that I'm speaking to, because I was there. I was one of those people. And this wasn't, I grew up and said I wanted to, be a transformation coach. It's nothing like that. It's my own path and journey, and then realizing how badly I wish more people would have gotten involved in my life and helped me along the way, because it would have been a heck of a lot quicker. Wouldn't have taken 20 years. This could have been a very fast process, but I didn't have the information and I didn't know. And so my heart is to help people know that they have a choice. They have a choice for a different life. They have a choice for different things. And so I hope that answers that question. It was a little bit long, but
No, it's
it's
perfect. And actually, I can so relate to what you're saying about the fact that, I was like that too. Um, that this is my life and it's just going to be like this until the next life. So my
right.
goal was to have a better life in my next life, which is, it's kind of hard to plan. I can tell you that. I tried it a lot and it's first of all, we don't know where we're going after, but
Right.
it is a sad place. And now when I think about that, I'm like, that was a sad way of thinking. But while I was in it, it was just totally logical for me. It was
Right.
like, okay, well, we all have our position in life. That's mine. I'm just gonna do the best that I can while I'm in it. And it doesn't mean that you're not gonna achieve things, because I had great successes career-wise. I had great successes business-wise, but you always end up feeling unfulfilled. You always end
Yeah.
up feeling like you set yourself amazing high goals because you think, okay, that's the answer. And when I get there, it's going to be so crazy good. And then you get there and you're like, why am I not feeling what I was supposed to feel if I achieved that goal? Because it was so hard to get it and I worked so hard. But so what I'm trying to say is that it's not only people who are not achieving things in life that need to look inside. It's
Oh
people in
yeah.
general. If you don't feel fulfilled with your life, like for the longest time on my dream board, I just want to be happy and then I want to be content. For me, I admired people who were content because they were actually fulfilled with whatever was happening. So that's, I think that if you feel like that right now, it's a great indication that maybe it's time to stop putting bigger goals and,
Right.
bigger career goals and bigger business goals, and maybe have the goal to, really look within. And that's what I love about your coaching.
Yeah. And, we get so focused on, especially business, like this can make us happy. But one of the first things I do when I work with somebody is we start taking a look at the 8 areas of life, all 8, not just business, family relationships, growth. Where are they growing internally? Their spiritual life, not telling anybody what religion, because everybody has freedom to, believe what they want. But where are you feeling connected in that area? Where are you feeling connected, within your community, within your friends, where do you have fun? And especially for driven people, that one's really hard. That one is just like, I work, I'm getting this rank, I'm doing this. And it's like, what's really fun for you? What is really that? And so we look through all 8 areas, and and what we do is we really look and see where they're at really right now, and take a really deep look at where they really are right now, and find out which areas are not working, which areas are not bringing that satisfaction and that joy. And then after that, we start working within. And when you put those two things together, because literally you can have $1 million and still die of a drug overdose. I mean, Kurt Cobain did it. I mean, just tons of people make their goal of what they wanted, and then there's suicides, there's drugs, alcohol, everything else to try to numb the areas that aren't working of satisfaction. And honestly, I think that we are here to really live a life of joy and peace and happiness. I think we should have that life. And when we don't have that life, something is out of balance somewhere. And you can have people that make $30,000 a year, and they're the most peaceful, joyful, happiest person in the world. And you can have millionaires who are miserable. And it's really about bringing that balance into every area of your life, learning who you truly are on the inside, and living in an authentic way that gives you your power back. And that's the last one that's so important. You have to live your life in a way that gives you power, gives you your power. Because when you give that power away to other people, you can't live in that place of joy and happiness, because you've just given over your control. You've given over the things where you have the say so. And people do it all the time, and they don't even realize they're doing it. They do it in their network marketing companies, they do it in their businesses, they do it at their jobs, they do it in their families, their relationships. They give their power away all the time. And when we live a life truly where our power is our own, and it's actually it's simpler to do it than you think. You think it's like this big word, and it's a simple thing that you start doing. It's harder to live it out at first when you haven't been doing it. But Oprah Winfrey used to have a problem with being able to say no. Now, here she is. She's very successful at this point. She's got the Oprah Winfrey Show. She's a multimillionaire. She's doing really well. But she has this big problem with saying no, which makes her lose her power. And Stevie Wonder called her and wanted her to donate to one of his charities. And she'd been trying to work on no and trying to be able to work on the word no and stuff like that, and couldn't do it. And she finally just said within herself, okay, I'm going to try this. And she said, no, Stevie, that doesn't resonate with me. I don't think I want to do that. And he's like, cool. Okay. Love you. Talk to you soon. And she thought saying no was going to be like the worst thing, lose the friend, lose the job, lose like all these different things in her life because she could never say no. And that was her very first step of taking her power back. Now, she would never be the success she is today had she not taken that power back. She wouldn't have the network. She wouldn't have Super Soul Sundays. She wouldn't have gotten as successful as she did on the Oprah Winfrey Network or the Oprah Winfrey Show. All of that would have never happened had she not taken her power back. And she has all of that and lives in peace and joy and happiness. And and maybe not all of us want to start a network or, all of that she did. But all of us want to have success that has meaning to us, that brings us the joy and happiness that we want, and feel like we're truly in control of who we are and our life. And until we get to that place where we have those things, we're never going to truly live in that place of peace, joy, and love. And so that I guess that's a big passion for me, because that was one of the transformation points for me. And again, talk to the person that you used to be, I guess.
That's great. And, I like how you say, take your power back and have your own success, because success, anyway, in my world, is all associated to numbers and levels and ranks and, getting there and there and there. But there's so many different kind of success. And honestly, in the last years, what I've learned is that the biggest success I want to achieve is to be happy and healthy and have my family feel the same. And yes, money is it's essential. So yes, I still put goals as, I need this much and this much. And I do what brings me joy instead of just like what I need to do to get to the next level. And of course, it doesn't mean that when you fix yourself goals, you're going to love everything that there is to do with it. But if the outcome is really what you want for your inner peace and inner happiness, then it's not as heavy. And the other thing that I want to mention is, like, when you talk about, taking back your power, it's not only about saying no, like Oprah did.
Right.
We associate that a lot to that, but there's so many different ways that we give our power away. And the one of the biggest one that I can think of is mothers. We give our power away to our kids like so often. And, that's a big part where the mom guilt comes in, where, I'm sure that everyone can relate to what I'm saying now, but giving your power away is not just saying no, I think it's prioritizing. Well, I can't say the word, but that thing, you put yourself as a priority.
Right. Prioritizing yourself and making you a priority, and stop putting everything else so far ahead of you that you lose who you are.
Yeah. And me, I really felt it as a mother, because, and don't get me wrong, I adore my kids and I loved being a stay-at-home mother for, well, it lasted about 2-3 years. But that 2 or 3 years really, when I went back, I didn't know who I was anymore. I didn't even know if I was capable of being a cashier at, the dollar store. I didn't know if I would be able to do anything, because I had lost myself. I had become a mother and I had given my all in that, but I forgot me in the meantime. So my point to saying all of this is that you don't need to be at a critical, huge, dilemma to say, hey, I need to take care of myself and I need to really transform my own view of myself. Like, I honestly feel like everyone needs it. But I want to address that too. When you talk about all of this and I hear the 8 areas and stuff like that, for me, what comes to mind, it's like, whew, sounds like so much work and, and this and that, and I'm going to have to change my whole life and I'm going to have to change the way I live. Reassure people on that. Like, what really is it?
Well, what's funny? I know a lot of people think that at first. They're like, but we don't really realize how these 8 areas all interconnect with each other. And just by kind of working on one, it affects the others. So let me give you an example. And this is an example that just really works. So For those of us who are in relationships, have kids, spouses, partners, whatever, if you ever notice that at home, when things are bad, there's fighting, there's all these other things, there's just things that shouldn't be going on, how it affects your level of peace, how it affects your work, how it affects, the way you're reacting with your friends, how it's affecting all these other areas. And so, and it's really hard, if you're in a situation where, you're not happy in your marriage, or you're fighting, your husband's cheating on you, any of those kinds of things. And there's a lot more that I could give examples for, but those were just the ones that came to my mind. But how you feel about yourself and how you react to the other areas of your life are all going to be affected. So usually it's really as simple as finding the one area, and usually people come in and it's like, I want to hit this rank. And it's like, great, perfect. Or I want to get this business thing, or I want to do this. And it's like, perfect. And we start talking about, the goals and stuff like that. And then you hear something, you hear this little key. Somebody say something like, well, yeah, but the goal, and I'm like, okay, so the goal excites you? And they say, yeah. And I'm like, that sounds like excitement. No. And we start diving into it. And then we find out, her and her spouse are fighting, this is causing, problems in their home, all these other things that are going on. And it's like, okay, well, because of that area, this area of what you want to do is being affected. So let's figure out how we can look at this area, what we can do that's within our power, where we can reframe things, where we can do what we can do in this area. So I had a coaching session like that recently. And by the end of the session, we had worked around the problem where she felt like she could move forward over here because she came to peace with what was here. So, we look at, I want to be this business person. I want to do this and I want to do that. And I did that for years. I mean, oh my gosh, thousands upon thousands, tens of thousands of dollars I've spent on all this training and University of Iowa, coaching classes and stuff and all this other stuff. And the thing I learned is that skills are amazing. I mean, we need skills, but as long as we have those internal things going on in those areas of our life that are hurting our other areas, we're not going to get quite to where we want to be. But it's a lot easier to fix than you think. It's usually just small steps, and those small steps compound upon themselves. And then suddenly you're at a place where you're like, wow. And it wasn't that much work. It wasn't that much more work than you were already doing. And in fact, when you start getting to that level of peace, things that go so much easier. You're not as stressed out, so you're not as exhausted. You're not as tired. You're finding more joy, so you have more excitement about doing things. You want to do more. So just fixing little things, but it's all little steps. That's the thing I want to reassure people. If you think that you need to go on this journey of change, and maybe you have kids that are driving you crazy, and you're married and you're like, want this, and you're trying to do this, and you don't know how you're going to juggle it all, and you don't know how you're going to do that. I promise you that if you take this journey and just do the small steps, it will end up like a snowball, and a snowball going downhill. And suddenly all those changes will come. But it's the small steps that win, not the big giant things. We think we have to go on a diet and starve ourselves for I'm going to starve myself for 60 days and then it's going to be all. But usually it's the smaller things of, I'm going to do this one thing. And then the next week, I'm going to do this one thing. And the next week, I'm going to add this one thing. And we add those things, add the things slowly. The change is easier then. It's not as, forced. It's not as dramatic. And that's in every area of our life, when we're trying to build our networks, because your network is important no matter where, it gives you opportunities for your entire life. And when building your network, if you talk to 2 people a day, in 1 year, you would have talked to 700 new people. Well, if I tell you to go talk to 700 people, you're going to be like, but if I tell you, okay, if you want to build your network, just talk to 2 new people a day. Just talk to 2 new people a day and follow up with them. Just occasionally say hi and stuff like that. That's so much easier. And so with any transformation, whether it is in your life, your business, your relationships, your finances, anything else, It's the small steps that are going to win because they don't overwhelm you. They're doable. And then they build upon themselves to create the things that you want.
Yeah, and I think that one big thing is that just naturally we're resistant to change.
Oh,
So just the
yes.
idea of like, I will need to change something, really? But like you said, it's like when you feel more peaceful after, it's so everything is easier. Everything is easier. You know, making a decision becomes easier. Making something becomes easier because then you feel like you chose it. And,
Yeah.
you know, even if you're in a job, a 9 to 5 job, you know, when you start looking at the sides of it that you like, well, it's not as hard to go, you know, and you don't just only wish you didn't have that job. You start looking at, hey, it's, you know, it's fine and this and that. So yes, you know, it's little steps that will bring you to feel better. And the other thing I want to touch with you, because we talked about that in pre-interview, and I absolutely love it. You said 2022 is the year to really, you know, get your power back, but you really
Yeah.
talk specifically about women.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, and this is the reason why I'm so excited about 2022. Every year I do set up goals. So again, not against goals, love goals. Just know that the internal work has to be done for the goals to really, happen. But as I was doing in through the month of December, I don't just plan for the holidays and celebrate them. I really take a deep dive and start looking at where I want to be at the end of 2022 or the end of the next year by December. What is it that I really want? What's going to bring me joy? What's going to bring me peace? What's going to bring me happiness? What are the things that I want to see and do, and all of those kinds of things. And this year, as I was doing that, and I was kind of planning some courses and classes that I'm going to be doing and things, I really thought about where I had came from and where I had gone and where I've come to now. And I did a Facebook Live a couple of weeks ago, and it was a revelation that I had just gotten through this process. And it came down to taking your power back. And so for me, I made 2022 about taking your power back. And too many times we're in a situation where we're just kind of like, oh, I just have to do this or I have to do that. And suddenly we've lost our power. We've lost our power of who we are. And you start losing your power enough, you start losing your confidence. And when you start losing your confidence, you don't want to go after new things. You don't want to try new things. You'll feel like you're worthy of better things. And that's a dangerous place for a woman. Like, that is a really dangerous place for a woman because it opens doors to things that they don't want in their life. And so for me, coming out of so much, like, I was in foster care, my mom, I love her. She's much better now, but at the time she was dealing with a lot of psychological stuff and couldn't raise me. My grandmother died when she was trying to raise me, but my grandmother was sick for years, and she'd sit at the table and just cry and beg God to kill her. So, this life that I was living was just kind of like, nobody loves you, nobody wants anything to do with you and stuff. And then I get into the foster care system, and it was abusive. It was awful. I'm thankful that it's so much better today. But back then it was not good. And so, you end up with all these bad things and all these internalized things within yourself. And it took me a long time to finally come to peace and come to a place where I could say, that wasn't about who I was as a person. That was about the circumstances that were going on in my family's life and with these other people and stuff like that. That didn't define my worth or value. This is, I have extreme worth and value. I have extreme, but you end up in these places where you're like, you don't have choice. So as I was going through my life, I was in abusive relationships. I would get cheated on, just all these things, and thought that I did not deserve any better. Now, here's the key. I didn't think I deserved any better. I didn't have anything in me that showed me that I had any self-worth beyond what I had right there. And it's very difficult to see another life outside of the life you're in if you don't have access to seeing what that kind of life would be, because it's hard to just imagine it out of nowhere. And so I met a woman who started, mentoring me. And it wasn't through a company. It wasn't through an opportunity. This is just something that she did. She was actually a nurse, but she just kind of did this. This was just kind of her heart, because her, again, came from that kind of life and had this amazing life. So she used to just tell me stories of what her life was like before and what her life was like now, because of changing her beliefs, changing her thoughts, changing all these other things, working on the internal work. And what it did was it gave me this vision that my life could possibly be different. It gave me this, maybe I have worth and value. Maybe I deserve something a little better than this. Maybe. And so that right there, that moment was defining for me, because it helped me start the journey to get to where I am today. Now, back then, I could have never imagined this life. I would never imagine that I live in this beautiful home in the mountains. I never imagined that I could ever have the things that I have today. Couldn't even see it. But the great thing is that this woman could see something for me that I couldn't see. And essentially, if you're looking for a coach, a transformation coach, life coach, mentor, anything, the one thing I always tell somebody is make sure that they can truly see vision for you beyond even where you can see, that they see that value in you. Because that is the one thing that sometimes you hold on to, the belief of somebody else seeing something for you to help you get there, because you can't, you don't know how to do it yourself. You don't know how to even believe in yourself. We were talking to somebody, and she's in this situation with a bad marriage, and the guy, he's not abusive, but he's not good to her. And she was talking to us, and she was like, well, I have to stay. And I'm like, let's talk about that for a minute, because I'm going to give you, let's talk about that side. You choose to stay. And I'm not saying that, and there's sometimes we have to stay at stuff like a job that we don't hate because we really have to pay the bills and stuff. But if we reframe it within ourselves, in our internal self, if we reframe that I'm choosing to stay for this period of time because of this, now we've taken our power back, even though the situation hasn't changed. And that's the first step of changing your life. The very first step is you take your power back, and, of taking your power back. So if you're in a job you hate and you're like, okay, I'm going to do this side gig, or I'm going to start this online affiliate thing, or I'm going to build an Etsy store and sell products or whatever. I coach women that do all of those things. And the first thing, though, that, when you want to do that, and then they start talking about, oh, I hate my job. I have to stay, and I don't want to stay. And I'm like, okay, we're losing our power here. Because if you're giving all your power there that you have to stay and they get to do whatever they want to you, no, that's not the truth. And it's not the truth that I want you to have in your heart. The truth I want you to have in your heart is, I'm choosing to stay at this job, even though I do not care for these things, but I'm choosing to stay for 3 months, or I'm choosing to stay for 6 months. And during that 6 months, I'm going to do this to start building up another income so I can make the choice to go. And when you reframe that you're making the choice, and make a small goal, in 3 months, you may not be able to leave. You may not have the other business built up enough. But then you make the choice, okay, I'm going to stay 1 more month till I have this. And then this becomes the focus, and not the I hate. It's the solution that becomes the focus. And when we are focusing on the solution, we have the possibility of making a dramatically better life than if we stay focused on the problem. We stay focused on the problem all the time. All we're going to attract is more problem. All we're going to have is more problem. We're only going to see more problem. So we try to shift the focus. And when we start shifting the focus, then we come up with other things that can help that person move forward. That there's things that we can do and change that makes that job just a little bit better, just a little bit more bearable while you're doing it. And for some people, it is time to leave the job. And sometimes they go out and do a different type of gig for a while they're building this. I've known people who left and did Uber, and decided to do this, because the stress was killing them so much that they could not focus on anything else. And it was because the situation was really that bad. But instead of just saying, I can't, and they get the control, what I really want women to realize in 2022, because like we were talking about, women were oppressed for too long. Women were, like we didn't have the right to vote. Are you kidding me? I mean, that just seems absolutely ridiculous to me. All of these things through the years that we have battled through as women. That doesn't mean that we hate men. Absolutely not. I'm married. I love my husband. That's not what it's about. But it's about coming into who we are, coming into our power, coming into knowing who we really truly are, so we can fulfill the things that we are destined for, the things that are in our heart, the things that matter to us. It's about rising up and being equal, not less. It's about rising up and saying that I am woman. I am. And it's a good thing. And never being ashamed of who we are, and knowing the value that we have in ourselves, and making sure that other people treat us with that value also. And if they don't, well, then they don't need to be a part of our lives, because we are valuable. So for me, 2022 is totally about helping women take their power back in every arena, in every area of their life, so they can live a life of peace, joy, love, prosperity. I never want somebody to be at the end of their life looking back and saying, I wish I would have. I want everybody at the end of their life, men and women both, to be at a place where at the end of their life, they say, look at this life I lived. Look at all these things I got to do. Look at all these places I got to see. Look at all these things I got to accomplish. Look at all these relationships that I just enjoyed so much. And to just be in that peace when we go back to where we came from, just being in that peace of, and not the regrets of, gosh, why didn't I go to Paris? Why didn't I go to Italy? Why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do that? No, that's not the way your life should have been. You are a beautiful, magnificent human being that deserves love, peace, joy, prosperity. And I want to make sure you have that. If I'm the person that's going to help you, and if you're going to find somebody who's a coach to help you do that, make sure that that's what their goal is for you. That's it. It's as simple
Wow.
as that.
What can I add to that? Like you said it all so beautifully. And I think that the key part of one thing that you said is, some people don't understand sometimes why getting a coach, and I'm one of them. Honestly, for me, getting a coach was always about having an authority figure looking over me, and I have a big aversion to authority. So
Yeah.
since I'm little, until I understood, no, a coach is the one you will choose, and you know, you will be making this decision. But what I really want to point out in what you said is you need to find someone who has the vision for you. Because quite often we get to a point of like, we don't believe in ourselves anymore.
Right.
Even if we went to the top, we don't believe that we
Oh,
can
yeah.
go to the next level. Or if
Right.
it's in a personal area of our life, we don't believe that we're worthy enough to have a husband that will stay and not cheat, stuff like
Exactly.
that. But it's just to find someone who will have the vision for you, who will believe in you until you believe in yourself, who will show you that, what you want it's attainable. Just like believe in yourself like I believe in you. And it's weird. I just wrote an article, well, a chapter in a book, but I had been asked to write in it and I procrastinated because that's what I do best until maybe 2 days before having to submit it. And I was just like, what am I going to write about? What am I going to write about? And I just woke up one morning and the whole chapter went like boom. And it's all
Yep.
about one picture that I took, which my best friend Elizabeth, not Elizabeth Larson, another Elizabeth, took me to a photo shoot for one of my birthdays when I was feeling super low. And she has no idea that this photo shoot, how much it put me back on the map because I saw myself through the eyes of the photographer, the photograph, because what they do is that they will put the lights, the makeup, and everything to really
Yeah.
get your best angle out. And
Yeah.
then there's a reason why also like those professional pictures are so nice. It's because we had to choose between 400. So clearly we took the better one. But
Right.
my whole point is I wish we could borrow someone's eyes sometimes
Yeah.
to look at ourselves because we would see ourselves so differently. And
Yeah.
when you find the right coach for you, that's exactly what's going to happen.
Exactly. Yep.
You will be able
That's
to
it.
borrow their vision and you will be able to see yourself through their eyes. And
Right.
that for me is huge. And honestly, it took me like so long to understand, but when we talk also about like surrounding yourself with, you know, the right people, it's surround yourself with the people who will look at you this way as well.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
Elizabeth, I mean, you know, I would talk for hours with you. You're absolutely delightful. For people who's watching the video, you can see how gorgeous her hair is. So I will ask for a tutorial on that as well. But Elizabeth, how can people reach you?
Well, definitely reach out to me, info@dreamlifeconsulting.net or Elizabeth@dreamlifeconsulting.net. That's a great
Awesome.
way to reach out to me. Phone number 602-540-5500. Yeah, give me a call.
Wow. So yes, give her a call. I wasn't expecting your phone number, but thank you for sharing it. That's how much, you know, people who really want to talk to her. Well, now you know how to reach her, and I will put all of the information with the podcast. Elizabeth, it was such a pleasure to have you on my podcast. Thank you so much. You know, I absolutely love you and admire you, and I know you're helping so many people, and I know 2022 will be even bigger for you. So thank you for what you're doing, and thanks to everyone for being here this week.
I appreciate you so much. And thank you for inviting me. I love you so dearly. You are incredible. And I got to tell everyone, if you don't really know Carolyn, you've got to get to know her. She has such heart and is such an amazing woman and is such an amazing business leader. If you're not super familiar with her, get super familiar with her, because the reason I'm on here is because I love her so much, because she is that amazing. So thank you so much for inviting me.
Oh, thank you, Elizabeth. Thanks, everyone.